Hold on to your loved ones because we have a star-studded cast featuring Poe Dameron, King Arthur, the Chilean guy from Game of Thrones, Batman, and a guy named Garret in the most botched heist film since Ocean's 8. Netflix's Triple Frontier centers around a group of ex-military who hatch a plan to rob one of Brazil's biggest drug lords. The only problem is that it goes horribly wrong. So in this video we're going to take a deep dive into the ending and figure out just what happened. The movie ends with Benny, Catfish, Ironhead, and Pope all giving up their share of the heist money to Redfly's family trust fund, an amount totaling over $5 million. That's about 2% of the total $250 million they had originally grabbed from Gabriel Larrea's stash. Each of the men feel tremendous guilt, not only for Redfly's death, but for the countless other lives they destroyed along the way. As Catfish says to Benny,
"I killed those people."
No, you didn't. We all did.
Everyone is complicit in these deaths. The initial plan was to have only one casualty, Gabriel Larrea, the ruthless drug lord who committed mass executions in his backyard. Yet when all is said and done, the team ends up killing dozens of people, including farmers and teenagers, and that guilt eats away at them. Triple Frontier is a parable on how greed corrupts. It's greed that causes Redfly to take more money than they can handle. Greed which causes the helicopter to be weighed down by taking on too much cash, and greed which slows down the men so that they're eventually caught by two teenagers looking for revenge. Redfly's death is a direct consequence of greed, and the other men know it. It gets to the point which the money becomes meaningless. They burn it to keep warm and even laugh while doing it. Their lives are worth more than any amount of money, and they end up tossing the rest in a chasm where no one can get to it. The $5 million they get at the end is all that they could carry on themselves, but even then they all agree money can't buy their friend back or relieve the guilt they have placed upon themselves. The men all go their separate ways, but right before, Ironhead asks Pope what he'll do now that the mission is over. Pope half jokes that he'll go see this girl he knows in Australia, of course referring to Yavanna. Yavanna was Pope's informant and lover who he helped smuggled out of the country with $3 million. Yavanna is the only one in the film who's not corrupted by greed, and she gets away because of it. Her motivations, unlike the men, are driven by the love for her brother. She'll do anything, even risk her life to save him. The men, on the other hand, risk their lives not for the good of the people, but for their own monetary gain. If Pope really cared about taking out Larrea so that the people would no longer be terrorized by this drug lord, he'd have done the right thing and completed the mission with the help of the army. Pope is an interesting character who, deep down, is a good person. In the beginning, when he takes down the drug den, it's obvious he's good at what he does. He's calm and collected in the face of extreme danger, saves a wounded soldier, and even lets one of the other officers take credit for the explosion that let them advance. For Pope, it's not about awards or accolades, but his one critical flaw, greed, is ultimately his own demise. It's also interesting to note that Metallica's For Whom the Bell Toll plays here, foreshadowing the death that will eventually plague our characters. In this way, Triple Frontier is an Aristotelian tragedy, with the characters succumbing to their flaws and thus being punished for it. But there is a glimmer of hope. At the end, Ironhead hands Pope a note with coordinates, the coordinates to the chasm where they drop the money, and as Pope disappears into the crowd, we're left with the following question. Will he go back for the money, or will he let it go? And just for fun, I typed in those coordinates into Google, and all I got was the ocean off the coast of Brazil, so good luck for any of you trying to find it. The ending also takes place in St. John's, Antigua. You can tell by the cruise ship in the background and the street named Prince Claas, as well as the fact Pope said they would get paid through a company in St. John's, the capital of Antigua. Finally, I want to take a look at the beginning scene where Ironhead talks to a bunch of army soldiers. He talks about how the effects of committing extreme acts of violence on others create biological and physiological changes. He calls this the price of being a warrior, and that's a price all of our characters must pay. And now they must live with the changes, some physical, like getting shot, but mostly emotional, the guilt. And all for what? A payday that never panned out. My guess is that Pope won't go back for the money. No amount will ever bring his friend back, nor get rid of the crimes he and his team committed. But what do you think? Leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of Triple Frontier. Make sure to like and subscribe and follow me on Twitter @ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.